This is an On the Ice and Behind the Benches podcast on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Blue Jays, Tigers. Blue Jays game recap. Game 4 of a 4-game set between the Tigers and the Blue Jays. Lights up. Let's go Blue Jays on the ice and behind the benches and sports for beginners. Let's go. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Well, hello everyone. Welcome in the Blue Jays game recap. And this, of course, is game number 4 of a 4-game series set with the Tigers and the Toronto Blue Jays are the managers for this game. Today's pitching matchup for this afternoon's series finale was none other than Max Scherzer, who took on, with the Blue Jays, the likes of Jack Flaherty, or Jack F for short. Now, before we get into the game and we get into the lineups, I'd like to discuss what's going to be talked about throughout this recap. As you may have heard me mention in the previous recaps, I have let you all know that the Orioles recap was going to be teased on the final game of the 4-game series between the Blue Jays and the Tigers. So I invite you to stay tuned for where the Baltimore Orioles and the Blue Jays records are at once we've broken down game number 4 of this series. We will also get to a player of the game. We'll talk about the series in general, do our American League and National League standings update, and we'll even talk about the winner and loser pitcher of this game. So with that all being said, if you're still gut-wrenched by the game that we got on Saturday night between the Tigers and the Blue Jays, even though Blue Jay fans, they took care of business and not only won the season series, but took 3 games out of 4, heading into the series finale with the chance to sweep the Tigers. I get it. It might have been the errors that were caused by the teams on Saturday night's performance. But could you really blame the Blue Jays? They had not made a single error since Saturday last night. And the only time they made an error was Saturday's game. Tigers made 2 errors on Friday night's game and another error Saturday night, still ended up losing. And if you look at it through the beginning of the series, both teams committed no errors, but each got hits, which of course transferred into runs. We're getting into game 4's breakdown, but in case you forgot, Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3's final scores. Game 1, it was the Blue Jays 11-4 on 11 runs, 15 hits, no errors for the Blue Jays. 4 runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Tigers. That was Thursday's kickoff game and the series opener of a 4-game series, game number 1. Final score. Cut to Friday night, game 2 of the series, and the Blue Jays take this one 6-2 on 13 hits and 6 runs, no errors committed by the Blue Jays. However, for the Tigers, they pick up 2 runs on just 5 hits and commit 2 errors in the ball game. Saturday, They commit just one error, their third of the series, and lose 6-1 on 6 runs for the Blue Jays, 12 hits, 1 error committed by the Blue Jays. And then, of course, for the Tigers, 1 run, 2 hits, 1 error for the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays and the Tigers committed an error in Saturday's ball game, but it was only the first error the Blue Jays had committed in this entire series. Now, we get to game number 4 of this series. And just a reminder of the pitching matchup with our meeting on the mound was Jack Flaherty, otherwise known as Jack F., taking on Max Scherzer for the Blue Jays in a game that seemed like we were taking the same path we had already taken last night, where nobody scored throughout the first couple of innings. Not on the Tigers' watch this time. And you're going to find out with our Game 1 breakdown, I should say our Game 4 breakdown right now. Quick note, there's one game still on the go for you guys right now. They're in the top of the 7th with all the games having gone final right now. And that, of course, is the Mets holding a 3-run tie with the San Francisco Giants. It is tied at 3 in the top of the 7th inning. The rest of the scores a little later. And who knows, by the time we're done, all games may be final. Let's to this afternoon's ball game at Comerica Park, which was scheduled for a 1:40 p.m. Eastern Time start, a 12:40 p.m. Central Time start, an 11:40 a.m. Mountain Time start, and a 10 a.m. 10:40 a.m. to be exact start Pacific. The run score and hits are as followed, Blue Jay fans and Tiger fans, as the Blue Jays would rally in the top of the 9th inning to score 4 runs on 10 hits, 1 error, their second and only other error committed in this series. The Tigers would play clean baseball a little bit like they did on Thursday against the Blue Jays, although they lost that game, taking it 10 runs on 10 hits, no errors committed. The winning pitcher is Flaherty. Yeah, Flaherty is the pitcher. His record now 6-10. His record coming into this game was 7-10, I believe. Max Scherzer came into this game undefeated, with most of the games that the Blue Jays lose being no decisions for him when he's on the mound. In tonight's ball game's case, as we're talking about this afternoon, Max Scherzer was not lucky this time. His record 1-1 on the season, his ERA 4.89. But you know what? I think that had it coming. All right, so we've broken down the score line for the Blue Jays and the Tigers in Game 4 of this Game 4 breakdown. But what's that I hear? It's time for our first break of the program. We will take our first break of the program, and then we'll dive into the remaining points of Game 4's breakdown in a 4-game series set in which the Tigers take care of business in Game 4, the series finale, and take it 1 game out of 4 to the Blue Jays winning the season series 3 games out of 4. We'll talk about it all coming up after these words from both On the Ice and Behind the Benches station on the Ice and Behind the Benches. And of course, words from Sports for Beginners station on Sports for Beginners. My name is Thomas McGregor, the host of the program, and we'll be right back.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners. Blue Jays Tigers 4-game series set has finally come to a close, and the Blue Jays have taken 3 out of 4, but the Tigers, well, they've taken 1 out of 4. But hey, I said throughout this series, as we near the trade deadline, that the Tigers had chances to win this series. They had chances. They could even split the series if they had won both this afternoon and, of course, last night, Saturday night, in Comerica Park. Unfortunately, for the Blue Jays, they had a chance to sweep the Tigers in 4. But as I mentioned throughout this recap, it's tough to sweep in 4. We found that very difficult against the New York Yankees, and the Yankees battled in 4 at Rogers Center against the Blue Jays. They battled, and the Blue Jays did the exact same thing. But enough about the Yankees for now. This is a 4-game series between the Tigers and the Blue Jays. And now that it's over, let's get us all caught up to speed on how it went down compared to Friday, Thursday, and yes, last night, Saturday. Our scoring tells the entire story of this afternoon's ball game. We're saying tonight because we're recording it at a night time, still on the same day, Sunday, July 27th, 2025. And Glaber Tours has his 9th home run of the season already under his belt. Will he get his 10th homer of the season? Yes, he will. It'll be a fly ball to right center field. Parker Meadows, Glaber Tours, and Dylan Dangler, if I'm saying it right, Dylan Dingler will get their start in a 3-0 Tiger lead over the Toronto Blue Jays. It's a 3-run lead in the bottom of the 3rd, all the way up until the bottom of the 8th, where the Tigers tack on 7 runs, with JB getting it started. He's 14th double of the season. He has 14 doubles now on the season. Meadows scores. Second time Meadows has been in scoring position. The Tigers are up 4-0 thanks to that double by JB, his 14th of the season. The runs continue with the guy who got things started singling on a sharp line drive to center field, Mariel Straw, to make the play. JB this time scores. It's 5 Tigers, 0 Blue Jays. 5-run lead for the Tigers. The inning continues with Riley Green getting things really riled up in the Blue Jays fan base on a ground ball to right field. Nathan Lukes to make the play, and the guy who got it started with a 3-run shot over Max Scherzer scores with Matt V settling for third base. Runners at the corners now, but the Tigers have opened a 5-run lead into a 6-run lead. It's Tiger 6, Blue Jays 0. Still in the inning, Spencer T decides, hey, how come I am not in on the action? Well, he'll get in the action with another single. And just like that, the Blue Jays have made a 6-run lead into a 7-run lead deficit for the Detroit Tigers to see if the Blue Jays can catch up to that. Matt V scores and Riley Green goes to second. So there's runner on first and runner on second. Remember Dingle? He was a part of the 3-run shot. DeAngular singles on a line drive to left fielder Davis Schneider. Riley Green scores. Spencer would score. Zach McKinstry would score. And therefore, DeAngular would be getting his second base on a fielding error by Davis Schneider, which would take a 7-run lead for the Tigers to a 10-run lead. It's Tigers 10, Blue Jays 0. All right, game over, right, Blue Jay fans? Tigers win 10-0. Ball game over? Some of us may think that, but if you're thinking the Blue Jays and you know you're never out of it until the game says ball game's over, George Springer, Bo Bichette, and yes, Addison Barger said, we're not ready to go to Baltimore just yet. George Springer cuts this lead to a 9-run lead, scoring Miles Straw, and Nathan Lukes will go to second base. Blue Jays have a runner on second and now first base. Single by George Springer. Bo Bichette coming to the plate. He singles on a line drive to Jay Jones. Nathan Luke scores. George Springer scores. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on his way to second at the time. And with a single for Bo Bichette and George Springer scoring, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to second base and Nathan Luke scoring, you've got a 9-run lead turning from an 8-run lead into a 7-run lead, with the Tigers now leading 10 runs to the Blue Jays 3. Blue Jays are riding high, but is it too little too late? Unfortunately, it would be. With Addison Barger, yes, he has his 24th double of the season, but it's on a sharp line drive to Jay Jones. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would score. Bo Bichette would go to third. And your final score would be Tigers 10, Blue Jays 4, which means the Blue Jays would be down by 6 runs, and therefore they lose this one 10-4 in favor of the Tigers. But there's a lot of good that came out of this series against the Tigers, Blue Jays fans. I said game 1. Going into game 2, was it the Tigers' night? No. Was it the Blue Jays' night? Yes. Will it be the Tigers' night on game 2? Maybe. Will it be the Blue Jays' night on game 2? Maybe. Turned out it was Blue Jays' win in game 4. Game 2 of the series. And I said the same thing in game 2's recap. Will it be Tigers' night in game number 3? Will it be Tigers' night in game number 4? Will it be Blue Jays' night in game number 3? And will it be Blue Jays' night in game number 4? It was, in fact, Tigers baseball picking up the win this afternoon, but through 3 nights, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, it was always Blue Jays win, and Blue Jays fans taking 3 out of 4 ain't as bad as it looks. We are still first place in the American League East, and the Tigers, well, they are still first place in the American League Central. All right, we're getting into our player of the game and the top performers of the game. We've already revealed the winning pitcher and the losing pitcher in this game 4 breakdown of the series finale. But just before we get to our player of the game and our top performers of the game, it's time now for the team comparisons between the Tigers and the Blue Jays, as the Blue Jays will have a record heading into a 47-58 record with the Baltimore Orioles. That series first game pitching matchup a little later. The Tigers will go in to face their opponents, the Arizona Diamondbacks, with a record of 61-46. They'll face a team that is 51-55. That is the Diamondbacks record as it stands right now. All right, before we get into problematic issues, let's do our team comparisons. And the Blue Jays left 11 men on base. They committed 1 error in this game, their second error of this series. The Blue Jays saw the Tigers strand only 1 runner on base. They stole a base, the Tigers, and while they touched base 15 times, the Blue Jays only touched base 13 times. The Tigers hit the only home run of the ball game. That's the 3-run shot from Gleyber Tour, or GT for short, and both teams had 10 hits, but the Tigers had 10 runs and the Blue Jays had 4 hits. 4 runs. So pretty uneven match there, if I do say so myself. At the end of the day, it is a game, and somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. This afternoon, the losing team was none other than the Blue Jays. The winning team this time around was the Detroit Tigers, and they're getting ready to head in to high gear for a 3-game homestand series against the Arizona Diamondbacks Monday night. But that ain't all. The Blue Jays are getting ready for a double hitter Tuesday after a Monday night in Camden Yards, and then an afternoon game to follow that on Wednesday after the doubleheader. Should the doubleheader play out, weather permitting for that, we'll see what happens in Camden Yards Tuesday. That was originally a 3-game series, but is now considered a 4-game series, with the makeup game being played out early Tuesday afternoon. More on that momentarily. All right, time now for the top performers of the game and the player of the game. And that, of course, looks at the likes of Max Scherzer getting a start for the top performers of the game. 7 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, 3 hits, 3 runs allowed. Jack Flaherty, or Jack Flolaharte. I'm just going to go with Jack F for now. I know I've said it before, but I completely mispronounce names sometimes. 7 strikeouts for him, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, no runs allowed. And of course, the Bo Bichette 5-for-5 performance, a double and 2 RBIs for Bo Bichette. And if you look at it, it's a 2-for-4 Labor Tours, 2-for-4, a homer, 2 strikeouts, and 4 RBIs. So he got a home run. He struck out 2 times and drove in 4 RBIs. You know, I'm beginning to think this guy almost would have had a 5-for-5 game had it not been for the 2 strikeouts. In fact, he would have been tied with Bo if both of them went 5-for-5. But that is your Tigers player of the game for this afternoon's contest. And those are your top performers of the game: Bo Bichette, Jack F, and Max Scherzer. The winning and, of course, losing pitchers are top performers of the game. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes. All right. Before we get into our thoughts on the series, which is coming up on the other side, let's take a look at the action that has gone on so far as we try to get you into the last couple of minutes of the ball game between the Giants and the Mets game, currently the only one underway right now. The Baltimore Orioles win a game against the Rockies. 5-1 is the score for them in this game as they come out with a victory. And does it ever seem so satisfying? The Red Sox also victors in the American League East. They beat the Dodgers 4-3. The Pirates shut down the Dykes 6-0. Tampa Bay Rays fall to the Cincinnati Reds 2-1. And the Yankees find a way to win over the Philadelphia Phillies, taking 1 out of 3 with a 4-3 final in favor of them. Kansas City Royals take the last game of the series against the Guardians. I believe it's the last game of the series for the Guardians. It's a 4-1. The Astros get absolutely crushed, but almost getting caused it by the error by the Athletics. They win it 7-1 on just 11 hits. They defeat the Astros yet again. The Nationals take it to the Twins and they win. The White Sox and Cubs have a battle brewing in which the White Sox cause 3 errors in the ball game, but the Cubs cause only 1 error and 7 hits for 5 runs determines a 5-4 victory for the Chicago Cubs over the Chicago White Sox. The Milwaukee Brewers take down the Miami Marlins today 3-2. The Texas Rangers put up a lot of runs against the Braves, 8 runs in total to beat them 8-1. And the Padres find a way to demolish the St. Louis Cardinals 9-2. The Angels, the only other game that went final, and that, of course, was a 4-1 Angels final over the Seattle Mariners. And as mentioned, the only other game on today, which is now in the bottom of the eighth, it's 4-3 in favor of the New York Mets. We will join that game with our American League standings update after talking about the series in full terms. That is next when Blue Jays game recap continues. And still to come, before we let the break take in on both on the ice and behind the benches and sports for beginners. A look at the Orioles' first of a 4-game series, originally known as a 3-game series against the Blue Jays. But due to a rainout, the Blue Jays play a no-hitter with the Orioles. We'll look at the pitching matchup for the Orioles and the Blue Jays for game 1 of that series before the show is up. But coming up next, our thoughts on the Tigers and the Blue Jays series and the American League and National League standings update. That's next.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
The Blue Jays and the Tigers have wrapped up a 4-game series. The series, of course, began on Thursday night, continued Friday night, and was about to approach wrap-up Saturday night, which we have now hit the wrap-up as the Blue Jays make their way to Camden Yards for 4 games in Baltimore, Maryland, before they come to play the Kansas City Royals for a quick 3-game series before the trade deadline on Thursday, just a few days away. Meanwhile, for the Tigers, as we welcome you back into the show, I am your host, Thomas McGregor. Welcome, as always, in. So glad you could join us. We'll get to my thoughts on the game and the standings update in just moments, but the Tigers are getting ready to face the Arizona Diamondbacks next. And then after that, while the Blue Jays are taking on the Kansas City Royals at home, the Tigers will hit the road for 3 against the Phillies before the trade deadline, which will begin on August 1st to August 3rd. If I'm not mistaken, they'll then open up a 3-game series against the Minnesota Twins, with the deadline being the off day, Thursday, August. And then they'll play 3 against the LA Angels beginning Friday night and wrapping up Sunday, August 10th. For the Blue Jays, after they have played the Orioles and then played 3 against the Royals, they'll have 3 against the Rockies in Colorado, and then make their way to play the LA Dodgers as they approach the trade deadline on Thursday, August 7th, which will wrap up on August 10th, Sunday at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. The other times, another time on Blue Jays game recap. Once trade deadline is done and the LA Dodgers and, of course, the Colorado Rockies series are done, the Blue Jays will play 6 games at home with 3 against the Cubs, and 3 against the Texas Rangers, starting a 6-game homestand on August 12th, Tuesday, and wrapping up on Junior Jays Sunday with the 3-game series finale between the Texas Rangers and the Toronto Blue Jays at 1:37 p.m. Sunday, August 17th. First pitch, of course, for the Looney Dogs night game, and the game after that will be 7:07 starts, with the last game for the Cubs beginning at 3:07, and 3:07 start Saturday for the Texas game, with a 7:07 City Connect night start to begin the Texas Rangers series. The Blue Jays will then hit PNC Park for the first time this season for 3, and then make their way to Miami to face the Miami Marlins for 3 on a 6-game road swing before returning home to play the Milwaukee Brewers and the Minnesota Twins. Seems like a packed schedule in August. And speaking of packed, after the 3-game series with the Twins and the 3-game series with the Angels for the Tigers, they'll have the road series of 3 games against the White Sox and 4 games against the Twins in Minnesota, Progressive Field, before coming home to face the Astros and the Kansas City Royals in 3. Then once they're done with the Athletics in Sacramento for 3 games, the Royals welcome in the Tigers for 3 games, beginning August 29th, Friday, and wrapping up on August, the last day of August. All right, so that's pretty much the schedule for you guys as we approach August and get into September. And my goodness me, it is almost postseason time, which means it's about months away from crowning the 2025 MLB World Series champion. Will that be the Blue Jays? I don't know. Will it be the Dodgers? I don't know. But let's not jump to the postseason just yet. It's looking pretty good for the Blue Jays, I'll say that, Blue Jay fans. But let's stick with the month we're in now. Still plenty baseball to decide all the teams' fates. And speaking of deciding teams' fates, time now for the hard-hitting question. The American League standings update. And we'll do this before we do the National League standings update to close out the show. And that, of course, will give you time to reflect on this series as both teams get ready for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and on the Blue Jays side, the Baltimore Orioles. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Your American League standings update looks like this. The Blue Jays sit at the top of the wagon in the American League East. 63-43 is their record, but don't look now because the Yankees are knocking on the door, just 5.5 back of the Blue Jays in terms of games, picking up a win against the Phillies in the last game of this 3-game set against the Philadelphia Phillies. And we may think the Boston Red Sox are out of it, but they're really just 6.5 games back of the division, only 5 games up on the wild card. And while the Yankees are a game and 5 back of the wild card, I should say in the wild card, the Red Sox and the Yankees are pretty close in records in terms of wins. They are tied at 57 wins apiece. However, Boston has lost 50 games, and New York has only lost 48. Tampa Bay is tied at 53-53 with their win-loss record, just 10 games back of the Blue Jays and 3 games back of a wild card spot. Meanwhile, knocking on the door, and while Tampa's on a 4-game losing streak, could be the end for Tampa Bay if we continue to win with the Baltimore Orioles. Blue Jays will have to be helping Tampa Bay out, it seems, because the Orioles are just 8.5 games out of a wild card spot and 15.5 games back of the division, with a record of 47-58, heading into their 4-game series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Somebody's getting close. Well, they may be out of it right now. The deadline is Thursday, And if the Orioles were to pull a oh my goodness right now, I don't think anyone would expect that the Orioles will be fighting for not just the wild card, but maybe, just maybe, the American League division of the American League East. Now, I know that seems a little far-fetched, but just look at it this way. They're 47 and 58. If they manage to win as many games as the Blue Jays have won, when the Blue Jays had a record of 11 games, the best they've had in their home record since 1985, I believe, which was 10 games at home. We could be talking about a brand new Baltimore Orioles team who early in the season and halfway through this second half still does not seem to have it yet. The American League West and Central leaders are the Detroit Tigers and the Houston Astros. For those divisions, are the Seattle Mariners and the Cleveland Guardians, who are currently 52 and 53 for the Guardians. And the Mariners are just 56-50. They are 4 games back of the Astros right now. Games back of the Astros. And while they may be close to a wild card, or they may be in a wild card spot, I think they want the division. But they're tied with the Texas Rangers. Seattle and Texas are tied with 56 wins and 50 losses, each both 4 games back of the Astros. The LA Angels are 51 and 55. They are 51 and 55, and they may be 5 games out of a wild card spot, but they're definitely 9 games back of the division. And while it may look hopeless, the Athletics, given the run they're on, 4 wins right now on their winning streak, we might be talking about a brand new Athletics team come Thursday. It is 15 games out of the division and 11 games back of the wild card. So here we go. And here will be a brutal test. The Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves and Washington Nationals may be down in the dumps right now, but Philadelphia and New York were tied, and now they're not tied. 61 wins for the Mets and 44 wins for the, I should say 44 losses for them. The Philadelphia Phillies are 60 and 45. The Marlins are 50 and 54. So right now, the Mets host the National League East Division. But we'll talk about that more in a bit. The National League rest of the standings updates coming up as far as wild cards go with the American League as well in just moments. But let's talk about this game. And I'm pretty sure as we are doing so, the Mets and Giants are closing out their game right now, which is 61 and 44, 44 versus 54 and 51. That's the current record for both those teams. Let's talk about this game. Okay, now we mentioned game 1, game 2, and game 3, but let's talk about game 4. Now, Blue Jays fans, the Blue Jays have been on what felt like a tear. They had won 3 games against the Tigers, took 2 out of 3 against the New York Yankees. They swept the Giants in 3 games, and now you come against a stretch where you're not only playing a doubleheader, but you're also playing 2 games Monday and Wednesday. Both are separate games. One is an afternoon game and one is a night game. But Tuesday, you're playing 2 games, one in the afternoon and one in the nighttime. That should be a lot of games to play. Who's going to get the start? Well, that on the other side of a 30-second timeout. However you look at it, Tigers fans, I just want you to be really happy that you avoided a sweep. And the Blue Jays fans, I want you to understand that while this series may not have gone our way and we may not have taken all 4, which would have been really exciting if we did win the series. The Blue Jays did win the series, but at the cost of some injuries that came in game 4, and that was a little unsettling for all of us. Because it's the end of the series, and we didn't really look at game 3, 2, and 1's players of the game, we will provide a link in the description for this video as well. But here is the player of the Tigers series talking about today's win, and I'm going to bring him up for you because it's the last of the series. Here is Tours or JT talking about a victory over the Blue Jays, a 2-4 hit day for him. And here's what he had to say about it all. Glaber Tours, if I'm saying it right. I'll stick with JT if I'm not saying it right. My friend, you have the floor. GT, excuse me.
I mean, feels good for sure. Get early on the game is a game changer. We know how good he's pitching, but I mean, as a team, we play really good today. That's what we need, step by step. Just one win today, just figure out tomorrow. But for now, just celebrate and be good. Yeah, just try to keep attacking. Like we've been doing like missing opportunity, try too much. When the team struggle as a player, we try to do the best for the team and nothing help. But today, just get really good at bat, pass the baton if we don't have anything, and just take any opportunity we got. As a team, we play today really well. More consistency at bat today. We see a lot of more pitches, and we do really good damage. Amazing. When I saw Riley in the morning, I laughing a little bit, but like as a player, we really believe in superstition, and he shaved, he got a mustache, and we won. Who knows? Who knows? After the today, we're gonna win 10. So hopefully we continue to play good and winning more games. Yeah, like I always say, like always from the beginning, it's really easy, it's really fun, but those moments, you can learn, you can know who's gonna grind a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like I telling the boys early on the year, it's not how we start, it's how we finish. First half was special, but I think the second half is gonna be more important for us. So we take experience to those games, those series, and the next series try to win in series what we do early on the year. Hopefully after today we continue to winning.
Hopefully, indeed, they continue to win. That was Glaber Tours, ladies and gentlemen, on the 10-4
We scan the code before we even leave home.
over the Blue Jays. Now, I would give you AJ Hinch, but I don't want to give us that much time. I do want to talk about the series. But you know what, Blue Jays fans, you know what, just be happy that we took 3 out of 4. I mean, look, it's tough to sweep in 4. It's tough. It's very rare, especially as a road team. And I'm sure it is extremely rare to win at home. We all felt it in New York. Let me go over New York's 4-game series with the Blue Jays just in case, because we're talking about the 4-game series finale with the Tigers. I'll just go over it real quick before we go into the National League and give you my final thoughts before we get to the 30-second break, which will finish off with the pitching matchup for the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. And a reminder of what's to come for Blue Jays game recap right here on the ice and behind the benches. So that's all still coming up, and that's actually coming up next. I mean, look, 4 games against the Yankees, 4 games against the Tigers. When the Yankees came to play 4 games against us back in late June, early July, we Blue Jay fans were hoping that the Blue Jays would not mess around. And New York, they battled. They battled, and they battled, and they battled, and they battled. But ultimately, the Blue Jays took it 8-5 Thursday in the series finale. They took it 11-9 Wednesday in Game 3. They took it 12-5 in Game 2 Tuesday. And in the series opener of that Game 4 series with 4 games, we took it 5-4 over the Yankees in Game 1. Once again, the final score of Game 4, the series finale between the Yankees and the Blue Jays at Rogers Center, was 8-5. I mean, the results speak for themselves. If you play, great. If you don't play, well, you can't win if you can't score, and you can't win if you score if you don't have good pitching. The Blue Jays had great pitching this series. Tigers, same. Unfortunately, 3 nights, it was Blue Jays win. This afternoon, it was Tigers win. And that's all you really can go about in this series. Was it a great series? Yeah, sure, it was. Was it a bad series? Hell no. I mean, hell no seems like a little bit of a strong word. So heck no. It was not a bad series. Was it a stressful series? if you were a Tigers fan, of course it was stressful, but you had to remember you had chances in game 2 and 3 and even in game 1 to win this series. The Blue Jays had chances. They took all 3. And in this one, they had a chance to sweep the Tigers, but the Tigers found a way to avoid the Brooms and win it 10-7. All right, we're going to take a 30-second timeout with the National League leaders. Standings update. We'll get to the rest of that, my final thoughts, the attendance record, and the Baltimore Oriole pitching matchup to look forward to in game 1 of a 4-game series, originally 3-game series for the Baltimore Orioles and the Blue Jays. That's all coming up in 30 seconds. Blue Jays game recap on the ice and behind the benches and sports for beginners continues after this. Stay with us. Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches. All right, Blue Jay fans, all right, Tiger fans, here with you for about another 30 to 20 seconds here. It appears as all the games have gone final, so just a look at the games that had gone final before the last game that had gone final, that of course was the Mets and the Giants. The Angels beat the Mariners, and of course you got the Texas Rangers beating the Atlanta Braves 8-1. They take that game in favor of them. The 9-2 victory for the Padres over the Cardinals take it to a 57-49 record and hand the third loss to the St. Louis Cardinals, who is now on a 54-53 record. The Marlins fight hard, but it's the Brewers coming out with a victory 3-2. The Cubs fight hard and they earn themselves a victory, 5-4 victors over the White Sox. Good news for the Blue Jays and the Tigers as far as division is concerned. The Astros lose to the Athletics 7-1, and the Nationals beat the Twins 7-2. The records of those series at the end of the series, 60-46 for the Astros, 46-62 for the Athletics. In the Twins, they'll finish their series with the Twins with a record of 43-62, 50-55 is the Twins' record. So 50 wins and 55 losses for the Twins. The Royals beat the Guardians 4-1 today. They take that game as well as one of the games that they split in a doubleheader. So they do potentially win the series 2 games out of 3, with one of them, of course, being a doubleheader as of the Friday makeup game that was played on Saturday alongside the game that was originally scheduled for Saturday. The Rays fall to the Cincinnati Reds 2-1. The Yankees beat the Phillies 4-3. It is Carlos Rodon with the win, his record 11-7. Blake Wheeler, I believe, Zach Wheeler is the losing pitcher of that game. His record 9-4. Evan Williams, his 16th save of the season. The Red Sox beat the Dodgers, as mentioned, 4-3. The Tigers, with the only shutout in this entire Sunday of baseball, 6-0 over the Diamondbacks, and 5-1 Orioles over the Rockies of Colorado. And just finaling, the Mets and the Giants have their records changed from where they were to now for the Mets 62-44 as their record, and for the Giants it is now 54-52 with 52 losses and now 54 victories heading into Monday, or I should say a break if the Giants are not playing on Monday. All right, Time now for the rest of the standings updates, and that, of course, includes the finale of the National League Central and the National League West. We already talked about the National League East, so we're going to wrap up their division. And just a reminder that there are some teams that are starting to get hot with big winning streaks. Like the Mets are getting really hot right now in the National League East. They have 6 games on the win streak right now, heading into their final match against San Francisco. And now that that's over, that is now going to be a 7-game winning streak, as they've now won 7 straight and continue their dominance as they now get ready to approach their next team of conversation. Who will that be? I'm sure we'll find out if we look at the scorecards at MLB.com or in any of the sports apps. Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers remain tied at 62 and 43, Chicago and Milwaukee. Their next series, of course, will be the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs. So they'll be facing each other. That should be fun to watch. It's a winning game streak of 2 versus a 1-game winning streak, and both have a chance to, well, basically end each other's winning streak before it gets any larger. So one might wonder, whoever wins that series, do they get sole possession of the National League Central? You could almost say we thought that was going to happen. However, while they both seem to be 6 games 0.5 up on the Cincinnati Reds, they may have trouble brewing in the wild card, as the Cincinnati Reds are just 1 game back of the wild card. So buckle up, Milwaukee and Chicago, for a great series to determine who's National League Central Division in charge and who's wild card in charge, because here come the Cincinnati Reds on a 4-game winning streak right now. And their next opponent is the LA Dodgers. That should be fun. St. Louis Cardinals, their next opponent, well, it's the Miami Marlins. And they are at 54-53, which is the record. 53 losses, 54 wins, currently 9 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers and Chicago Cubs, and only 3.5 games back of a wild card spot. Currently on a 2-game losing streak. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on a 2-game winning streak and are only 13 out of a wild card and 18.5 out of the division. What's easier, the wild card or the division? Well, if they keep winning, I think both is still pretty much worth it. But you guys can let me know what you think, Pirate fans. Is it still too early to hit the panic button on the Pittsburgh Pirates, or has the panic button already been hit and now it's time to deactivate it? Once again, it's a 2-game winning streak for the Pirates, and their next opponent, none other than the 54-51 San Francisco Giants, who are currently on a 2-game losing streak right now. And we thought they were facing the New York Mets again. Nope, that series has wrapped up. Who is facing the New York Mets? Well, that is the San Diego Padres, who are currently 57-49. And remember Cincinnati? We talked about the LA Dodgers. Their record 61-45, and they're on a 2-game losing streak. Oh boy, this will be fun. You can almost say it's division versus division at this point. Arizona Diamondbacks 51-55. They're taking on the Detroit Tigers next and are currently 6 games back of a wild card spot. The Giants are just 2.5 games back of a wild card spot and only 6.5 games back of the National League West Division. The Padres are only 4 games back of the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks are just 10 games back of the Dodgers division that the Dodgers hold sole possession for now. However, they are 6 games out of a wild card. The Rockies are pretty much done. They're on a 2-game losing streak at 29.5 games back of a wild card, and they are literally probably really out of it. And I mean really out of it. In terms of division, they are 33-5 games out of the division. Oh boy, jeez, that's tough. All right. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go over the American League and National League wildcards in our standings update, but you know what? That's okay. We're pretty much done here anyways on Blue Jays game recap. But who says we can't talk about Monday's pitch matchup between the Orioles and the Blue Jays? And you know what? While we're at it, we'll do the Tigers pitching matchup that they have as they take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch flies at 6:40 p.m. Eastern time in Comerica Park. The Blue Jays, it'll be Chris Bassett on the hill against Zach Eflin. Zach Eflin will have Chris Bassett's number. This will be 24 versus 40 in the first of a 4-game series set with the Blue Jays and the Orioles. Another Battle of the Birds edition in what was supposed to be a 3-game series ends up being a 4-game series due to a doubleheader makeup game that begins Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. Pitching matchups to be decided. Of course, that's 12:35 p.m. that the first game gets started. 6:35 is when the second game gets started. Both games will be free on MLB Network and MLB app if you are looking to watch it there Tuesday night. And I'm sure they'll be available on Sportsnet and ASN, the Baltimore Orioles Sports Network. Once again, the Blue Jays take 3 out of 4. They take care of business. And really, the last thing you want to say here is that this loss was coming for the Blue Jays. Great series overall, guys. And what happens when you have a great series where the Blue Jays take 3 out of 4 and the Tigers take, 1 out of 4? You have a great attendance record to look at. But this one looked a little bit more promising for the Tigers. So let's go over that attendance record. And then we got to get out of here. We got to sign off here on Blue Jays game recap. As far as the Baltimore Orioles series goes, just before I'm going to bring out the attendance record, we will cover both Monday and Wednesday's game. Stay tuned to the end of Monday's show for how the doubleheader will work. If we don't cover it on the ice and behind the benches, we'll cover just 2 of the 4-game series, not including the doubleheader. But we will be covering that road series Monday, which is tomorrow, and we'll be covering that for you on the early slot before the Baltimore Orioles get ready to go for game 2 of that series. And then, of course, game 3 following later in the evening at 6:35. That is a doubleheader Tuesday. And then, of course, we'll have Wednesday's series finale right here on the ice and behind the benches, just like Monday's game immediately following the game. Who will be pitching for that matchup? Who will be pitching for game 2 and 3? Find out on Monday's recap of the Baltimore Orioles and the Blue Jays. All right, time to sign off here on Blue Jays game recap. And that can't be done without the final attendance record, 53 fans in attendance. I know they're putting a $sign there, but it was 36,053 fans in attendance. All right, everybody. That's it for Comerica Park. That's it for the Tigers and the Blue Jays this series. Will they meet in the postseason? I don't know. Will they somehow be gifted another series? I don't know. So far, the only series that the Tigers and the Blue Jays have played is here at Comerica Park. It's a 4-game series. And that seems about all the series you could have for this season. But will there be another one? Maybe, maybe not. My name is Thomas McGregor, and the Blue Jays take it 3 out of 4, but they lose today 10-4 in favor of the Tigers. Go enjoy your week, everyone, and we'll see you again after the Baltimore Orioles take on the Blue Jays at 6:35 p.m. Eastern, 5:35 p.m. Central Time, 4:35 p.m. Mountain Time, 3:35 p.m. Pacific. Lights up, let's go until then. Have yourselves a great night and a great week. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginners podcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time. Thank you so much for listening to the On the Ice and Behind the Benches post-game show on the Sports for Beginners podcast feed. Remember, everybody on the Ice and Behind the Benches, to join Thomas every Tuesday for weekly episodes of your favorite ice content, from the drop of the puck to hitting the showers. We thank you for joining us. Hey Blue Jays fans, a Blue Jays game recap for Sports for Beginners. It is your host of On the Ice and Behind the Benches, the podcast, Thomas McGregor here. While it may have come to an end on Sports for Beginners, I highly encourage you to stay tuned for further updates on Sports for Beginners as they are taking a new path. But don't be afraid to join me during the next road series as Blue Jays game recap continues on the Ice and Behind the Benches. From all of us at Sports for Beginners who put Blue Jays game recap into play, thank you very much for joining us and listening to the show. If you'd like to see it again, please let our host of Sports for Beginners know, and have yourselves a great All-Star weekend and a great second half. See you then.